Krishna 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 Hare Krishna 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 Krishna
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Om Sri Sarabhyaya Namaha.
Om Sri Surabhyaya Namaha.
Om Sri Sarabhyaya Namaha.
Om Sri Surabhyaya Namaha.
Om Sri Sarabhyaya Namaha.
Om Sri Surabhyaya Namaha.
Mukam karoti basalam pagum langayate girim yat kripa tamaham bande Sri Gurum Dinataranam yat kripa tamaham bande Sri Gurum Dinataranam. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Welcome to our session, Pariprashnena Sevaya. We are continuing taking questions from different devotees. Last few days we have not received many questions, and again, unless questions keep coming in, I will not be inventing questions, so either questions will be there or they will not be, and that will affect, of course, this program. It's just a bit of information before we read from our speaking about Varnasrama. Today we held our second tutorial for our teachers at Varnasrama College online. This was given by a devotee in Orlando in the US who has been teaching online for the last 8+ years. Tirtharaj Prabhu. It was very helpful, very instructive, and these are the kind of tutorials and support systems that we will be providing on an ongoing basis. These will all be recorded and be made available to our teachers in the future. We are continuing with our preparations for the opening of the college official inauguration on the 15th of May this month. That means 14 days from now. I would like to mention, because at different times there are individuals, either single or families, who would like to be connected and involved with our activities. We very much welcome and invite devotees to be connected with us in different ways. Especially, I would like to mention that we can provide you with a list of different communities where there are ongoing activities to develop self-sufficient groups or self-sufficient communities, and vice versa. If we can know who, so we have on the one side these communities, and then on the other side, if we have a list of interested devotees, families especially, these communities are meant mostly for householders, for grihastas. So already we are being approached at times from members of some of these ongoing existing rural communities if there are any householders. So we'd like to bring all this together to facilitate that those who are inclined, interested to be part of such communities we can connect them or make the link. Already we're in the process of doing that. There are many interesting things that are happening. Gradually, these will be put up on our website. We have just a reminder that on the 8th, so it's just in a few days from now, 1 week from now, we will be opening registration for the students. Up to now, it is not possible. We do welcome, and it is possible now to register as a teacher for online preaching at Varnashrama College. So we will go right away to read some section from speaking about Varnashrama. And today, we are reading from chapter 39, which is a conversation or pieces of conversation in Vrindavan on the 27th of May, 1977. And the title of this section is From the Cities to the Villages, from urbanization and globalization to village life, localized life. Some of the themes discussed here: improve rural organization so city people will be attracted. That was an important point Srila Prabhupada always stressing. Create models, create examples, so that devotees can come, they can see, they can experience, they can become attracted. And then farm. It's Krishna's program. Krishna's program is Krishi Goraksha Vanijam. He is in Vrindavan, the foster son of Nanda Maharaj and Mother Yashoda. Is a Vaishya. So farming and cow protection. Srimad Bhagavatam as a reference book. Yes, all of these topics in reference to simple living and high thinking, the importance of cow protection, being localized, being self-sufficient, developing all the necessary human qualities. We find all of this in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Then, selecting workers from worst class and transforming them into devotees. That's what happened to all of us, especially in the Western countries, not at all connected with the Vedic culture. By the mercy and the potency of His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada, He has taken the most fallen and given us the opportunity to take up the practice of Bhakti, devotional service. And the last theme here, don't bother about big buildings. The biggest building we have is here in SSKBK, which is relatively small, actually. So don't bother about big buildings. So in this exchange, there were devotees like Tamal Krishna, Yashamati Nandan Prabhu, and Mahamsa, also at that time, who was heading up the project Hyderabad Farm, actually, that Srila Prabhupada called New Naimi Saranya. So here are a few things that Prabhupada is telling. So much land is lying idle, and these rascals are not developing it. What is that? Coal. They are interested with these bricks and stones, not green vegetables. And then we know how to do it. Anad bhavanti bhutani parjanyad anasambhava jagnad bhavati parjanya. All living bodies subsist on food grains which are produced from rains. And rains are produced by performance of yajna, sacrifice. And very important, yajna is born of prescribed duties. Let them engage in kirtan. There will be more water for gardening, and it will be moist, and then produce fodder for the animals and food for yourself. And animals give you milk. That is Vrindavan life. We are meant to produce, to duplicate Vrindavan village and the Vrindavan lifestyle that was going on in that original Vrindavan. And they are absorbed in this so-called opulence. Krishna has taken birth. They are bringing so many nice, pleasant foodstuff, very well dressed and ornamented. These are descriptions. In the morning, we were reading how they were happy, the inhabitants of Vrindavan, with Krishna and living and cows. That and I want to introduce. Prabhupada is telling that lifestyle, that arrangement in village like Vrindavan, that I want to introduce. At any cost, do it. The Prabhupada is telling, at any cost, do it. Don't bother about big buildings. It is not required. We should, be building by local materials. That's something else Srila Prabhupada instructed. Use local materials. I was looking at some documentary some time back. Someone sent a link how one person here in India, him and his wife, I think for 2 lakhs of rupees, they build their own mud house. Very, very nice. All planned out. Spacious, all the facilities are there, no need of electricity. They use solar panels, and they have a special place in the kitchen where they keep all the food in a cool area in the earth, surrounded by some water pot to make it cool. So many traditional technologies that are actually part of the Vedic culture that we have forgotten today. Make the whole field green. Produce. Then whole economic question solved. Then you eat sumptuous. Eat sumptuously. The animal is happy. The animal even does not give milk. Let them eat and pass stool and urine. That is welcome. Even when cows are not able to give milk, they remain valuable. They're very valuable from the very beginning to the end. Cows actually are so generous. Our acharyas describe not only when they are living, but after they leave their body. The cow is also of value in many ways. After all, eating, yes, so the cows, they will pass stool on the ground. So that is beneficial. Not simply milk is beneficial. Even the stool is beneficial. So then this last point that Prabhupada is making about bringing people who may not be qualified, but giving them a chance to become qualified. We have to select our worker from the worst class of the society, Papi. Then Prabhupada quotes, Papi, Tapi, Jatachilo, Harinama, Udarilo. Papi and Tapi. But we shall prove by Harinam they become Krishna conscious. That is the movement. You trace the history of everyone. All worst third class, and they come here. And that is Krishna consciousness movement. So like this. So this is a very important message that Prabhupada is giving in this chapter, how to prepare the field in such a way that people from the cities can actually make that transition in rural communities. This is not some utopia. It is not simply some sentimental feeling. This is very practical. It needs to be thought out. It needs to be planned properly. But this is the model. This is the Vedic system that we should understand and that we should be adopting. We will now go to some of our questions here. Yes. So today is the first of the month of May, and we are on our 31st session already, and taking question number 93, which is sent from Rishi Kumar Prabhu in the Gulf country. This was the second question. We took his first question not yesterday. There was a storm yesterday. We could not broadcast. So this is his second question. Dandavas Pranam Guru Maharaj, what is the meaning of total surrender to Krishna? Does it mean chanting all the time like Srila Haridas Thakur, or complete our 16 rounds and devote the rest of the time in serving Krishna in the temple or any capacity? Yes. This good question. We used to think in the early days that only one who joins a temple is totally surrendered, or only one who shaves up becomes a full-time devotee. Full-time devotee meant for us, I remember in the early days, if you're not shaved up, you're not a full-time devotee. If you're not living in the temple, you're not a full-time devotee. But as we practice Krishna consciousness, as we mature in our understanding, we should come to the position and understanding that anyone who is fully absorbed in remembering Krishna, in serving Krishna, in whatever activity he may be doing, then that person can be or is a fully surrendered soul. Then that person is also a full-time devotee. So full-time devotees are not simply those that we count who are living in our temples. Full-time devotees are actually those who have made this major commitment to Krishna and who are seriously endeavoring to surrender completely at the lotus feet of Lord Krishna. So therefore, Srila Prabhupada, he would explain that we have established 16 rounds. 16 rounds is the minimum that we should all be chanting as devotees, especially those who have taken the vow, those who have been initiated. That is the minimum number of rounds, 16 rounds. And the rest of the time, because there is such an urgency for spreading Krishna consciousness, the rest of the time we should be busy in different activities connected with Krishna consciousness. Now, majority of people who are living outside of our temples, some of them can be involved, and many of them are, in helping the preaching activities, either going out on Harinam a few times a week, helping in book distribution during the book marathon in the month of December, or at regular times as well. Many different activities that one can be engaged in as a congregational member. And the vast majority of our devotees, householders, they are working. They have a family to support, and they also need to support the activities of the Krishna consciousness movement. So what is most important to remember is the consciousness in which we are doing activities. So real surrender, real full-time devotee is that person who is making a very serious endeavor, who has taken, who has made this very, very major commitment of giving his life ultimately for Krishna. And even though one may be working with what may be totally disconnected with Krishna consciousness, for example, if somebody is a driver driving a taxi or whatever it may be, the results of those activities can be dovetailed in the service of Krishna. So what is most important is to perform the minimum in terms of our chanting, and the rest of our time, the rest of the day, we perform activities that are authorized by the scriptures, that are in line with Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra, and activities that ideally can help us more easily to become Krishna conscious. And that is why, connecting with a few things we were reading a few minutes ago, when we are performing activities that are more traditional, in line with how we should live within a Vedic framework, within the Vedic culture, then that is more conducive for our practicing of Krishna consciousness. Example, most of our devotees are working in the cities, working at jobs that have nothing to do with Krishna consciousness, and are surrounded by non-devotees, not having opportunity for good association. So many different pressures are there from their peers to engage in all kinds of activities or all kinds of discussions that have nothing to do with Krishna consciousness. It makes it very difficult. Therefore, a more ideal situation is to be working within a context where we have devotees who are co-workers, and where we perform or take up activities that are more in line with what is meant to be the natural occupation for the majority of householders. And this we have mentioned, but it is important to repeat. The main activity for the vast majority of householders is meant to be agriculture. You know, as strange as this may seem, you know, because most of our householders are in the cities, are working in some kind of professional job or whatever. But most are actually far removed from agriculture, from the land. So Prabhupada is telling, Shastra is telling, that this is meant to be the natural activity for the vast majority. And then, of course, some devotees bring up the argument, but how? We have not been trained up to do agriculture. How we will do, we don't know. Learn it. We have spent so many years learning to do artificial things, non-traditional occupations. Most of them are actually artificial, not natural. We have learned, and we continue, because modern day setup in terms of occupation or profession is that every 6 months or so, you have to go for upgrading, and you have to learn some new skill, or you have to learn this new technology, or new system, new program. It's constantly changing, and it's putting tremendous pressure on individuals who are caught up in this kind of ever-increasing competitive lifestyle, competitive work. So, if it's difficult for devotees, and it is, how much more so, how much more pressure is there on those who are not devotees, those who don't have this knowledge, and therefore who are not properly, sufficiently equipped to deal with the kind of pressure. And that is why this whole unnatural, artificial system, it is simply taxing on the brain, taxing on the psychology, the mind of individuals, and making it very difficult, very difficult to remain focused on Krishna. So this question is good, that we can become like Haridas Thakur, means we can reach these higher levels of transcendental realizations by taking up our different activities in Krishna consciousness, in proper consciousness. Yes. So we will go to the next question, which is question number 94. Oh, actually, Rishi Kumar Prabhu had a whole bunch of questions here, which is good, because we are practically running out of questions. So question 94 is, are there any level of service, or a devotee can take up any kind of service? What kind of service pleases most the spiritual master in Krishna? All activities, when performed in the proper spirit, the proper mood, the proper consciousness, when they're performed in that proper mood and proper consciousness, they become pleasing to Guru and Krishna. So, what is most important actually is to try and meditate on the mission of the Lord. Krishna comes in this material world. What is it? Yes, no, not that one. Krishna, when he descends in this material world, Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata abhyutanam dharmasya tadatmanam srijamyaham. I come, Krishna explains, dharma samsthapanartaya, isn't it? Krishna comes to establish the principles of dharma. So Srila Prabhupada explains, the business of a devotee, the business of a disciple, is to actually assist Krishna through Krishna's representatives, the devotees, the acharyas, the guru, the spiritual master. We should be assisting these personalities in fulfilling the mission of the Lord. Guru is simply having one thought in mind: how to help my spiritual master fulfill the mission of his spiritual master, which is ultimately the mission of Lord Krishna. So there is no particular activity that will be more pleasing except those activities, regardless of what they may be, which will help to establish the mission of the Lord. Book distribution is, of course, a very major and important activity that Srila Prabhupada stressed immensely when he was physically present with us, and he emphasized as well how these transcendental literatures will remain the guiding light actually for the whole of humanity for the next 10,000 years. So books are the basis. Preaching is the essence. Every single member of ISKCON should be somehow connected in one way or another with the preaching mission. And as we explained the other day, the preaching mission is not simply going out on the streets of big cities and distributing books and chanting the holy name. Undoubtedly, that is preaching. That is very important preaching. But even someone may be in the country, may be developing a community. Prabhupada explained that actually in these communities, we will have bullock cart. We will have more than one bullock cart, because one of the main activities in the village will be to train up the young bulls or bullocks so that they can carry things, so that they can plow the land. We will take our bullocks and we will go on the north side. Where's the north side? North side, this side. We will go on the north side of our community and visit the village closest on the north side on bullock cart with some books and prasadam. And then like this, we will go north, we will go south, we will go east, we will go west. Means even in the village, that preaching mood. We are, after all, a preaching society. The mission of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is a preaching society. The Harinam Sankirtan preaching mission. Lord Krishna's mission is to preach the message of the Bhagavad Gita. Our mission is to reclaim the fallen souls. And Kali Yuga is full of such fallen souls. So we have unlimited opportunities to preach Krishna consciousness in unlimited ways. So we should pray to Krishna to help us find our way, in which way we can be helping or assisting Guru and Krishna to spread Krishna consciousness. So that is foremost. A devotee has to come to that platform of feeling obligated to Guru and Krishna for having received this opportunity of becoming free from this entanglement of this material world, from the modes of material nature, the threefold miseries of life, to become once and for all freed and liberated. This is like the greatest gift, and especially what awaits all of us is our development of love of Krishna, reviving our original dormant love of Krishna. This is unknown to 99% of the people in the world. So therefore, we need to develop an attraction and an obligation and a commitment to be involved in this preaching mission of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, which is being carried out over the years, over the decades, over the centuries by various acharyas. So, as we mentioned earlier also, regardless of what position one finds himself within the framework of Varnasrama, whether one is a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, in any of these activities, if one takes up those activities in proper consciousness, then that will be pleasing to Guru and Krishna, and we can become perfect. We can perfect our lives in any of these activities. If we are confused sometimes what we should do, then we can pray to Krishna, who can actually inspire us, or we can approach other senior Vaishnavas, and they can help us. Just to close on this point, I would say the following. We've been getting a lot of hot weather in India. 36 degrees here where we are in Udupi, and in Hyderabad it's even warmer, 38, if not 39. You know, that like in Fahrenheit that's like 106 degrees. And in Metpali, also last year I spent 1 month Metpali in Telangana. They're also right up there, just like Vrindavan, 39 degrees. Actually, last year we stayed at one place for 1 month. It did not come below 40 degrees. I remember every day I was looking, when is this going to change? 40 degrees, 41 degrees, 42 degrees. That's like 106, 110 degrees Fahrenheit. So regardless of where we are, we can somehow connect with Krishna, and we should develop that strong desire to help our acharyas, especially our founder acharya. And here's the point I wanted to make before I drank this water. The point is, because for so many years, actually Srila Prabhupada, as we know, spoke about Varnasrama, mentioned that 50% of my mission is yet to be fulfilled. Requested that we open, immediately we set up Varnasrama College. What is urgently needed in the world today is knowledge and training about these principles of Varnasrama. Otherwise, tomorrow we have no food, because we don't even know how to grow food. And we are totally dependent on an unreliable system that can and will collapse. We've said this many times because these are the words of our spiritual master, because these are the words of Shastra. When we perform activities that are adharmic, then we will get results which will not be so nice, isn't it? So therefore, the point being that this whole area has been neglected. It remains to this day, 2020, after over 50 years, we have, practically speaking, no Varnasrama colleges. We have, practically speaking, very, very few farm communities who are actually self-sufficient. Very, very few who are actually able to say that our community is totally sustainable. Therefore, this whole area needs urgent attention. And therefore, I make this humble request, and this is why we are having this particular session of Pariprashnena Sevaya, and this is why we have this ministry here in India called ISKCON Daiva Varnasrama Ministry, and this is why we have been promoting this Om Sri Surabhi campaign, for example, to bring that awareness. And more recently, this is why we are starting this Varnasrama College online. It is being neglected, grossly neglected. This is not pleasing to our Acharya, Srila Prabhupada, to our founder Acharya. This is not pleasing to Krishna. We are, by not taking this up, not able to actually provide the kind of help and assistance that we could be and should be to hundreds and thousands of people, you see. So I very much encourage devotees to read literatures that are speaking on this subject matter. And it is not that we neglect our basic practices of Krishna consciousness in the matter of chanting and performing our different worship, such as attending Mangal Arati, attending classes, etc. These things should be ongoing. Simultaneously, we should give focus and attention on what has been neglected for too many decades. And if we can revive and make a tangible progress in this area, then it will bring a much desired equilibrium and balance that is missing today. That is missing today in the world, and that is missing today within our ISKCON society as well. So, let's see. So the question was, yes, are there any level of service, or a devotee can take up any kind of service? Any kind of service. We should stop aspiring, because that's often the general thought and desire to become a Brahmana. Brahmanas are meant to be very few. Actual Brahmanas, even within our ISKCON society, although many people have what we call a Brahmana thread, it is wrong to call it a Brahmana thread actually. It's a sacred thread. Sacred thread in the Vedic culture is given not only to Brahmana, isn't it? Sacred thread is given to someone who is a qualified Brahmana, number one. Sacred thread is also given to someone who is a qualified Kshatriya. Kshatriyas also have thread. And sacred thread is also given to someone who is a qualified Vaishya. So therefore, we have yet to understand this whole aspect in terms of, because we have not introduced the Kshatriya culture. We have not introduced the Vaishya culture. Therefore, we don't have qualified people to take up the position of Kshatriya and to wear a thread indicating that he's a qualified Kshatriya. We don't have that system in place whereby one can receive knowledge and education and training on how to be a qualified Vedic Vaishya and to receive a sacred thread. This is a next phase that has to be introduced at some point if we want to actually establish Varnashrama. And this will come in a natural way but only if we as a society, especially those who are in leadership position at whatever level, give more attention, and in this way, by hearing the instructions given by our founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada, then this understanding will gradually mature. And Krishna from within the heart will help us to understand how to proceed, how we should be doing. In this context of this pandemic, global crisis that we're all facing, this should be such a clear call for all of us, for ISKCON as a society, to get our act together and to go to the villages, to learn and to understand the extreme urgency to set up self-sufficient communities. It is not simply that, okay, we should have here and there a farm. We should have here and there some cows so that our deities can have milk. This is like the minimum. This is like the very beginning. We should be talking about and planning to actually establish not only farm communities or not only farm projects or rural communities. We should be reviving the original plan and social structure of Vedic villages. And that's a whole science. The whole science, how to build a village, how to manage a village, how to organize a village, where to do this, what is required, what kind of land is needed, how to. So many things are there actually which are all explained in the Shastra. But who amongst our few Brahmanas are reading these things, thinking it is not important? It is important. It is not only important to chant Hare Krishna. It is most important to chant Hare Krishna, but it is not the only important activity that we should be doing. And this was explained by Srila Prabhupada as well. On the higher level, yes, that is the most important activity, chanting the holy name. But any activity, when we properly understand, that is performed, as we explained a little earlier, in the proper consciousness, those are the highest activities. You see. And creating a social arrangement. This is, again, a standing order on the part of Srila Prabhupada. One of the purposes of our Krishna consciousness movement is to bring a complete overhaul in society and to revert. To revert means to come back, to change our present direction. Misdirection. We are misdirected. To change that present direction, which is primarily urbanization towards agrarian lifestyle. If we simply give some time to hear these instructions in the purports given by Srila Prabhupada, in the Bhagavatam especially, and in so many lectures that Srila Prabhupada has given, it will become so crystal clear that this is a very important part of the Krishna consciousness movement's mission, you see. And that is also there within the 7 purposes that Srila Prabhupada penned when he registered the International Society for Krishna Consciousness in New York in 1966. Yes. I believe, we have time for one more question here, which is, let me see. Whoops. Yes, another question. Rishi Kumar Prabhu had a whole bunch of questions, I think 5 questions. So here's the 4th one. Since we are living in cities and still not inclined or ready, due to certain material reasons, to revert back to villages. Thank you. Revert. Or farm communities, as seen from today's trend of devotees, is there a need for proper planning? What can be the readiness until the time one is shifting his place? In what way he can make advancement in one's journey to Krishna consciousness? Yes. Srila Prabhupada had asked Giriraj Maharaj in his last days when Prabhupada was in Vrindavan, will this Krishna consciousness, he called him in the middle of the night, actually Prabhupada was very ill, And Prabhupada called Giriraj in the middle of the night, and he was totally surprised and was anxious to know why Prabhupada was calling him. When he came, offered his obeisances to Srila Prabhupada, Prabhupada asked him, Giriraj, will this movement continue? What will help this movement continue? Will it continue? And Giriraj replied, yes, if devotees continue to chant their 16 rounds, if devotees follow the 4 rules and regulations, yes, the movement will continue. Then Srila Prabhupada paused and he explained, of course that is there, but especially of importance is planning and organization, intelligence. With intelligence we plan. Intelligence is the domain of the Brahmanas. The Brahmanas are the ones who are the visionaries. They know about dharma. They know the desire of the Lord. They know the desire of the previous acharyas. They have vision. Therefore, they can articulate what is the mission. Whereas the organizational aspect is meant for the Kshatriyas. So planning is for the Brahmanas. Organization is for the Kshatriyas. So Srila Prabhupada was making this point, that unless there is good planning and unless there is good execution of that planning through proper organization, our movement will not last. So therefore, we need topmost Brahmanas in our society. We are needing persons who are actually Brahmanas in the real sense of spending hours and hours reading and studying Shastra, not having to be caught up in the working force, being obliged to work to earn a living. Brahmanas are meant to depend on Krishna, and they are meant to focus on entirely Brahminical activities, which the foremost of which is actually to study, to read and study and to teach this knowledge. Such kind of Brahmanas are actually very few in the world, even within the world of Hare Krishna. And therefore, if we have less of these individuals, that means that less people are actually planning properly. Planning has to come from the Brahmanas. And only the execution of that proper planning from qualified, dedicated, surrendered Brahmanas who have a complete, balanced vision of our spiritual duties and responsibilities in life, and simultaneously of our material duties and responsibilities in life, who have a proper understanding and balance of what is meant to be our spiritual swadharma and what is meant to be our material swadharma. Only this kind of understanding can help our devotees and our ISKCON society to move ahead properly. Otherwise, we are imbalanced and therefore cannot progress so nicely. So just to finish on this point here, we have a few minutes. So the question, since most devotees are living in the cities, correct? And since most devotees are also not inclined, or due to various material reasons, cannot revert back to villages or farm communities, is there a need for proper planning? Absolutely. Absolutely. That proper planning means to understand what is the desire of our founder Acharya. To understand what is meant to be the norm and the standard of life for the vast majority of people in the world, including the vast majority of devotees. What can be the readiness? Means how we should prepare ourselves now till the time we are able to shift. Well, we should hear more and more of these explanations that are connected with what is the Vedic norm. That means we should hear about the pastimes of the devotees in Vrindavan, not simply to hear about the wonderful leelas, but actually to understand how, in a practical way, they were depending solely, fully, completely on land and cows. You see. In one purport, Srila Prabhupada explains how the residents of Vrindavan, they were busy from morning till evening. They were working very hard to perform their various activities and duties. But they were fully Krishna conscious. They were fully absorbed in remembering Krishna, always endeavoring, wanting to please Krishna. This was the mood and the mentality. And they were satisfied with this simple, natural lifestyle. So we can best prepare ourselves by imbibing this mood and mentality of the residents of Vrindavan, and by reading various literatures, sections in the Bhagavatam and other literatures also that speak about the four basic sciences. We've talked about this on a number of occasions. Every devotee should have a basic understanding of the four main sciences that make up the Vedic culture, which are the science of philosophy, the science of education. We're talking about Vedic education here. We're talking about Vaishnava philosophy. And then the science of politics or governance, we're talking about Vedic governance. What is Vedic governance? Vedic governance is based on monarchy. And monarchy is based on all kinds of wonderful, very deep concepts and principles that are not taught and unknown, actually, by the majority of our devotees. And also, what is most unfortunate, the last of the four sciences, the science of economics. Every householder is especially interested, naturally, to meet his economic needs. So that science is there, but again, unknown to the vast majority of our devotees. That science of economics, which is, again, based on cows and land. This is not something that our acharyas made up. They're simply repeating what Krishna is telling. They're simply repeating what previous acharyas and how things were in India even up until recently. Not only in India, all over the world, this agrarian lifestyle was actually the norm. So the more we understand this, then we can prepare ourselves and taking up different skills, becoming students at the Varnashram College online that we will be starting, that will be inaugurated on the 15th of May. And I should close here actually, because we are at the end of our session today. Just a brief reminder, on the 15th of May at 7:35, 7:40 in the morning, we will have official inauguration at the Nandi Sanctuary in Sri Ramayapur, which is headed by Dayal Mukunda Prabhu and his team. And we will have simultaneous Go Brishaba Puja, worshipping of Mother Cow, and worshipping of Brishaba, Father Bull, because that day is Brishaba Sankranti. We are endeavoring right now to reach out actually to so many devotees who are connected with farm communities. We really want to make this a grand event that will make it possible for devotees to become more aware and more connected And by taking these different courses, one can learn so many things. One can learn skills to prepare oneself to actually live in such self-sufficient communities. So I will close here today, thanking all of you for being very attentive in hearing. Please continue to send in questions. Please continue. We will be hearing in a few days, actually on the 3rd of May, day after tomorrow, what will happen with this shutdown here in India. And whatever may be, devotees should still continue to be cautious and to be protecting themselves and to follow the various instructions and guidelines that are being given by different authorities who are there. So we can all together repeat the Hare Krishna Mahamantra to close our session today. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.